Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Communications and Cigars. I am your host, John Crook, and yes, we are coming to you previously recorded, but hey, not a worry, because guess what? We are still actually in the chat and inactive on there. However, we do have a couple other things that always take place every once in a while on a Monday night, but hey, we deserve to get a show out to you, and that's what we're doing here. We're getting that show out to you here. So what is tonight's show about? Well, guess what? Tonight's show is now sort of a continuation of last week's show. We talked about multi-band radios. Now we're going to talk about multi-protocol radios. Now we touched a little bit about multi-protocols, but we got some people that kind of asked questions. They said, John, what is multi-protocol? What does that mean? Like, aren't a lot of radios out there multi-protocol? Because they were like, well, you have different modes and stuff, and there's this finite thing to it. So that's why I figured, you know what, let's continue from last week's episode here. And we talked about multi-band radios, so radios that had multiple bands in them. So not just dual bands, but we're talking like VHF, UHF, 700, 800, all those things. We did kind of touch on the amateur side of things on there a little bit, but these were more so of more of the public safety, more of the business, more of the LMR, those kind of things. That's what we touched on last week for the multi-band radios. And we briefly discussed multi-protocol, but once again, some people kind of... multi-protocol is almost becoming a buzzword now because of the way the radios are. So we figured, you know what, let's go ahead and do that. But I want to go ahead and thank you everybody for tuning in. Of course, my name is John Crook. And we appreciate everybody turning into the show and, basically watching on a regular basis. It's very greatly appreciated for that on there. Obviously, Communications and Cigars is brought to you by our friends over at JJK Communications. They do sponsorship for us. And as you see here, if you have any questions, feel free, communications-cigars at jjkcom.com. Once again, communications-cigars at jjkcom.com. Once again, JJK Communications is a sponsor for us. We do thank you, them for helping support the channel here. They get us, like I say, they allow us all to buy the little toys and the things we need to do here for the show and everything like that. And thank you for everyone once again for tuning in. We reached sort of a little bit of a milestone after the last show. We did hit 500 subscribers, but I'll tell you what, I don't do this for the subscribers. We do this for the discussion, the education, and it's been amazing how everybody that's been tuning in, and I have people that tune in on a regular basis, some that live locally to me here in town, some that I know around the area, some that I know in the state of Wisconsin, some that I know through the entire United States. And there's even a few people that tune in from different countries to go ahead and do that. And I think but the interesting part about it is there are people that do reach out, and we do go ahead and continue the discussion on the show from there. And I think that's really awesome. I think that's totally, totally awesome on there. But with that being said, we're going to talk about communications, but we also want to talk about that great subject that kind of brought us to here, which is the cigar parts. So over the last couple episodes, we've been talking a little bit about the cigar aspect of things. So we talked about and started out with flavor. We started out with body, and now we're going to talk about strength. And strength is kind of that important factor of a cigar. And the reason I say that is because you have flavor. So it's like, is it a flavored cigar? Is it bourbon dipped? Is it a coffee dip? Does it have a sweet taste to it? That kind of thing. Then we talked about the body, the fullness of the body. Like when you take a drag off of the cigar, when you inhale on there, how is that smoke? How is it? Is it a quick burning cigar? Is it a slow burning cigar? Those kind of things. A lot of different factors into there. But strength is going to really, 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 really be indicative of the way that the cigar is. And what I mean by that is that why is a cigar strong? So you could have a cigar that has hardly any flavor and it is extremely strong, or immense flavor but is what they would consider a mild cigar. And what really determines a cigar strength is going to be the different primings of the tobacco plant that are used in the different aspects of it, okay? much like anything that's a plant, obviously you have things which tend to, for example, soak up more of the nutrients of the plants, or soak up more intensity on there. A good example is when I have tomato plants. My family will plant tomato plants each year and everything like that. But when the flowers start to come around, we break off the little flowers there so that the tomato, the fruit of it itself, can actually draw more of the nutrients out of the plant, get the more moisture content out of there. Well, the same thing kind of is with the cigar. The leaf, the intensity of the leaf, what part of the leaf is being in there? What is being used? So when they call it primings, okay? And the higher the priming, the more intense of the priming, the more intensity of the flavor, the higher nicotine content, the more strength it's going to have. So when you actually have a cigar and it's a thick, maybe dark leafed cigar on there, it's going to have more intensity in that leaf of tobacco that is used, and that is really going to create the strength aspect of it. So that's an important thing to understand, is what is used on there. And I know a lot of people, myself included, that I will take a look at cigars, especially if it's a cigar brand, or not necessarily a brand, but maybe a type, a series of it, a model, if we could say, of that cigar that I've never had before. I'll look at the leaf, I'll look at the primings, because there are certain leaves that are used that is automatically going to be a heavy strength cigar. So that's one of the things that you kind of look at it on there. Now, strength is in three categories. There's full strength, there's medium strength, and there's mild strength. So full strength cigar is the easiest to determine. It really is, because you will know it is full strength. When you light up that cigar and you start to take a couple puffs on it, a nice couple draws off of it, guess what? You're going to instantly feel that strength, that intensity on there. Now, intensity, strength goes along with the nicotine content of it. So if you have a cigar that is a full strength cigar, you're going to be getting a large amount of nicotine. You're going to be getting some, usually it's associated with a large amount of body to it, also to strong smoke and everything. In that case, you're going to know right away, because if you have a full strength or a full cigar and you're not used to it, you're going to get that cigar sickness. Now, I talked about cigar sickness before, and maybe in another episode, we'll kind of go over some of the things again, kind of review that on there. But you'll experience some of the symptoms. And those are headaches, usually dizziness, those kind of things like that, even to the point of nausea on there. Now, a medium strength cigar is your average cigar, I would say. Still relatively easy to identify. You'll be able to take a draw off the cigar and you'll feel, okay, there's a little strength to it. I can feel it, but not enough to go ahead and like a full strength cigar where you could get sick almost instantly, depending. It's not uncommon for medium strength cigars either to still be full flavor or full like bodied of cigar. So for example, you have a medium strength cigar, maybe you have like my Macanudos, okay? My Macanudos, they're bourbon dipped, are the ones that I like on there. Man, it may have a full flavor of the bourbon dip, but it's still a medium intensity of the wrapper, medium intensity of the primings to give me a medium pull of the tobacco. Some medium strength cigars have also been told, and I've seen this too a little bit, they can have a peppery flavor, a overall or deep or heavy profile, like kind of like, you know, you draw off it and then you kind of like, okay, I could feel the taste of the cigar, I could feel it, and it's just that it's hard to describe unless you've done it, where it's just a presence of the cigar. Now, mild strength cigar, easy to identify. It's going to have a mixture of flavor and body, but it's going to be very mild, or what some people can say is very palatable. Now, I'll be honest with you, these are more of your cigars that you buy per se over the counter. You go into the gas station, you buy your Schweitzer Sweets, or you buy your, like I have some Al Capone cigars and those kind of things like that, or cigarros or something. They're very mild and stuff like that. They want it, you want a cigar, but you don't need a boom like kind of flavor or anything like that on there. That's what's going to happen with that cigar on there. So that's your little bit about cigars on there. I've known a lot of people that as time has gone on, or I should say read a lot of stories too, that people who jump into cigars, they don't necessarily take the time to get the education and they just kind of boom. Oh, well, this person likes this cigar, so I'm going to get this cigar. Well, then all of a sudden, the next thing you find out that, man, this is a medium or this is a full body cigar, and that person is starting out and they want a mild cigar. They don't want intensity. They don't want this bam feeling on there. They want very light and easy, and they go jump in, as they say, jump in head first into the deep end, and then they get sick, and then they're like, nope, I'm done with cigars right away. And you've heard stories, where back in the day, the kid stole the grandpa's cigar, or maybe the kid stole the dad's cigar and went and smoked it, and then he's throwing up and everything. Well, odds are probably a grandpa, dad, or whoever's been smoking cigars for a while. Guess what? They're probably at least a medium, okay, in regards to cigar strength, maybe even a full strength, and they sneak away and do it, and they're going ahead and they're throwing up. So strength does have a great impact on there. So that's kind of those three main key points. We're going to talk a little bit about more in the next episode on there too, about some of that cigar sickness and some other things to go ahead and consider on there. So nevertheless, let's jump into tonight's topic, which once again is multi-protocol radios. Now, we need to define terms. We need to do nomenclature in order to help us understand. There was always a term of multi-mode. And multi-mode, and this is usually an amateur thing, and that's why I want to do it. Because if you're an amateur, you might hear the term multi-mode and say, oh, no, it's multi-mode, not multi-protocol. Right. Multi-mode is usually something that operates, obviously, in different modes, but is usually pretty simple, doesn't really require the additional things that digital requires, and mainly a vocoder. So if you think about it, CBs we'll use for an example. CBs, AM, and single sideband. Now they have FM CBs, so maybe FM, AM, and single sideband. Those are all different modes. They're still transmitting an analog signal. They don't require special equipment like digital voice needs, like a vocoder. Alrighty. Same thing with the amateur world. So amateur world, they have FM, single sideband, AM. Once again, those are all different modes. The term protocol comes into play because now what we're doing is we're taking and putting a little device in there, which basically is a vocoder, a voice encoder decoder. And that encoder is then taking your voice over the air, translating it, converting it into a series of ones and zeros, so data, and sending that data out. All right. Now, that is why we call protocol, because now what happens is that, yes, there's different modes. You're taking in essence that same analog signal, but you're doing something different. Instead of frequency modulation, you're doing amplitude modulation, AM versus FM. Single sideband, you're basically, modulating an upper or lower part of the sideband signal on there. But now when we get into digital, now we're taking and we're saying, hey, there's an analog voice. Now we're mixing it with a protocol that's a digital protocol, that's an algorithm on a chip, and that chip then is converting it and sending it out over the air. Alrighty? That's why they started to use the term protocol. Now, the reason that it's important to understand protocol is because protocol also comes to a data set of operational standpoints, if you really think about that. And from this graphic here, you'll see that this is a prime example of different protocols. Now, FM in the center is FM, right? It's just FM, we were used with it. But if we go ahead and start up at the clock, go around, so we talk about NXDN. NXDN is Kenwood's format, where they're using C4FM in essence and FDMA, but they have certain data structures. They have certain tones the C4FM is mixing with and everything like that. They have certain bandwidth characteristics. It's a protocol. It says you need to transmit at this wide of bandwidth. You need to transmit in this format with this data set and all these kind of things. That's a protocol. Now you shift to the bottom right there, DMR. DMR uses 4FSK, 4 frequency shift keying, and TDMA. So now that's a different protocol. It's not C4FM, it's 4FSK. It's not FDMA, it's TDMA. And once again, that's a protocol of the data subsets that are needed in order to be able to communicate across things. And then finally, in the lower left-hand corner, you have P25. Once again, P25 is C4FM and FDMA like NXDN, but what's happening in that case is that it's using different data sets, protocols, certain things it is. And those kind of protocols are saying, I need to transmit in this data format with this and this and this and this, and it's for P25. It's not compatible with NXDN. So that's why we use the term protocol on here. Now, one of the things that has come up, and by the way, if people are wondering, I did get this logo from Kenwood on there. If you can Google Kenwood multi-mode protocol or multi-protocol. You can Google the NX5000 series. That's where this comes from. Right now, Kenwood is kind of leading the pack in this case. Now, once again, our channel is non-brand, non-specific, but in this case, it has to be to a degree because Kenwood is the only one out there that allows multi-protocols in there. Now, let me clarify also too, because we're starting to get into this thing here, where radios might have the ability to either transmit on NXDN or DMR, but you can't do it. You have to turn it on in radio. So you have to hook up the radio program and saying, okay, I want you to operate in NXDN. I can key up in NXDN and everything. But now if I want to talk on DMR, got to hook the radio back up to the computer, type, change it to DMR, and then I can use it. What we're kind of talking about with multi-protocol here is, yes, the radio can use different protocols, but more so saying with just a flip of the switch, with just a twist of the knob, the change of the zone or something, you can have two of the three protocols listed here, so either NXDN, DMR, or P25, and be able to, just by changing channels or changing zones, be able to hop between the different protocols that are out there. So that's what I mean seriously by the different protocols out there. Now, this is becoming, and we kind of talked about it even with what bends my antenna, because the multi-protocols are once again a solution along with the multi-band to be able to say, how do we adjust, how do we adapt to connecting systems together? Well, once again, we talked about that. Is connection of systems together the right thing to do? And unfortunately, there is going to be no cookie cutter boilerplate stamp on there. This is how we're going to do it. Because once again, you have multi-protocols. You may have a DMR conventional system that needs to talk to a P25 trunk system. Can that happen? Yes. Is it easy? No. Now, right away, I know hams are going ahead and saying, if they're watching this, saying, well, there are devices out there that go ahead and do it. And does it? Yeah, there is, but we're dealing with, in the amateur world, we're dealing with basic protocols. We're dealing with DMR Tier 2, okay? Which is basically a protocol for conventional, meaning non-trunk, non-nothing. I transmit it on a repeater and I receive, or I talk on simplex. You're talking that compared to a P25 system, which is, once again, same thing, simplex or repeater in, and that's it. You're not talking about a P25 phase 1 trunk system where there's a control channel and then you need a voice channel, or a P25 phase 2 system which uses a TDMA type configuration, and this and this and this and this. And then you're not talking about NXDN. You know, NXDN in the amateur world, we're just conventional on there, right? We're not talking about type C trunking or you know, Gen 1, Gen 2. We're not talking about all that. When we're getting into these worlds now of business systems, LMR systems, public safety systems, we're talking trunked, encrypted, whatever systems. So it's not just easy as saying, okay, I go in on this mode and I have a little device and I go down the data stream and connect to the server. That doesn't work. Okay, it really doesn't. You need gateways, you need routing, you need to plan the system out, you need talk group mapping, you need all these kind of things on there. So now it comes down to, let's get back to the core of the issue here. Now it comes down to saying, okay, wait a minute. I got my public works on DMR Tier 2. My local law enforcement agency happens to be on a P25 phase 1 trunked system, but my fire department talks to the county on P25 conventional, but then fireground operations are FM. And I'm not even going to worry about the bands like we talked about last week with the multi-band protocol or multi-band radios, right? I'm not even going to talk about that. I'm talking how in the hell do you duct tape them together? Because now, not only are you talking about disciplines, you got your police, fire, and EMS and public works, okay, needing to talk, and whose channel can whose go on, right? Okay. But now you're talking about oh crap. Not only do I have to determine how to make these people talk and who can I talk to and who can't I talk to, but then I have to find out how do I go on the system. Now, a lot of it, people were lucky if they're on a same network system. So if they're on like a P25 trunked radio network, congratulations. Then you got to program as talk groups. But that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen because not everybody can afford systems. And then you have the question of who is responsible for this interconnections, right? So if law enforcement's on a P25 trunked radio system, fire's on P25 conventional, and then FM fireground conventional, and then DMR public works, who talks to who? Does law enforcement say, okay, we're going to build a patch for you public works to be able to talk to us. We're going to put all this money, and this is going to cost some money, folks. This isn't just a bake sale or a fundraising activity, and you got brought in a dozen of grandma's cookies and you made $100 to fix this. No, this stuff gets in there, especially because the manufacturers, let's face it, they don't want to play with one another whatsoever, and I can't blame them. Motorola doesn't want to play with things because they don't want Kenwood taking their ideas, and Kenwood EF Johnson doesn't want to play with L3 Harris because they don't want to go ahead and take away their ideas and stuff. So now you have that intertwined in the mix. What is the solution? Well, a solution is having radios that are multi-protocol. So that goes ahead and states, hey, I just need to go ahead and talk to my public works. Well, my public works is on this talk group on this system. Well, my radio is a DMR capable radio because I have multiple protocols. So now I could take and program a DMR system into my multi-protocol radio. But now I need to talk over to that P25 P25 trunk system. Well, I can have P25 in the radio, and P25 now, mind you, there's a lot of little subsets of P25. So there's, once again, conventional, then there's phase 1 trunking, there's phase 2 trunking, those kind of things like that. And then within the different phases of it, there's a lot of different things that can be done. Okay, a lot of little features and sets and everything. But I have P25 in my radio. But because P25 trunking is different operation than P25 conventional, they're both P25. They just go ahead and how they talk to the system is different. So now what I can do is with one radio, I have DMR, that system there. Now I can use P25, need to talk to law enforcement. Now I'm on P25 trunking, and then I need to talk to fire department. Well, if I'm talking it through, let's say, the county system, well, then I could use P25 conventional, but when we're on scene, now I could switch back to FM. And these radios all have FM capability. They actually all come, usually, they're FM based. And then you add on the layers of the protocol that you want. Now, one of the things that's going to actually be pretty significant when you're talking about a multi-protocol radio is the limitation of how much protocol can be active in the radio or available for activity. And in this case, right now, we have on the market, we have radios that could do, out of the 3 listed, you could only have 2 active at one time. And what that means is that, looking at the screen here, is I could have the radio set up that it could do NXDN, DMR, or P25 in it. But the radio is only going to allow me to program with the computer 2 of the 3 systems. And so in this case, I need DMR and I need P25. Well, even though the radio is capable of NXDN, it's not going to let me program NXDN as an active type of protocol in the radio. It's in the radio, it's in the memory bank. It says, hey, this is kind of like languages, right? Okay, if we want to break it down even more, there are 3 different languages, but your brain can only say, I can only talk and listen in 2 languages at once. If I go ahead and try to listen to 3, I'm just going to get too confused and it's going to be too damn hard, okay? That's what I mean by in that case there. But with that being said, now I have that ability. Now it actually provides greater system control and system security by doing it this way than linking of systems. Here's why. And this is why multi-protocol is going to catch on. If I link, okay, so let's say I'm a county radio guy, okay, I'm the system administrator. And in the county, I know DMR is active on Public Works, and I know P25 trunking is active for law enforcement, and I know P25 is on the county system for fire and EMS usage. If I start to build gateways and connections, I'm at the mercy of those systems. And what I mean by that is I mean that if I have a user on one of the systems, or the system itself is starting to have trouble and it's not working properly, it could be causing interference through that connection, that gateway, to the other system. So now what I did is I have a DMR system, DMR conventional repeater that's acting up for some reason, but it's connected through a network or through a gateway of somehow to the P25 trunk system. Now I'm tying up that P25 trunk system because I have problems with the DMR network. And this goes either way with any system. Okay, so if I connected the DMR to the P25 conventional county system, well, guess what? I'm tying up that county system. Or let's say we're not doing with DMR. Let's say we're doing with NXDN. And let's say an FM system, okay, an analog system bridged to the NXDN system. If that FM system starts to receive interference, guess what? It starts to receive interference, and now that one system is causing an interference to another system, which is not going to experience the interference. You see what I'm saying? So when we eliminate all these gateways and patches, and I'm not against gateways, I'm not against patches, okay? I believe there's gateway and patches when the time is needed. But what's happening in those cases is you could be taking down multiple systems because of something that's happening on a singular system. It's a domino effect of it. But now we go back to the multi-protocol thing. So now what I do is I have radios that I assign and put onto the systems. Okay, so if the multi-protocol radio, while it may have the ability to do DMR, if you don't assign it an ID program in the system to it, it's not going to go on that system. Or better yet, now we have more control of the system. So if that radio with that ID starts causing issues to one of the systems it can operate on through its multi-protocolness, I like that. Anyways, if it has issues with that, then what you can do is you can go through that system to kill that radio, to disable their access to that system. So in the system, I could turn off their ID. Okay, I could turn off their access. If it's really dangerous or really problematic, hell, I can even probably go through the system and send the kill command or the stun command to kill the radios. Okay? So in that case and in that scenario, what you really start to have there is you have greater control of your system by having the individual user radio being controlled than actually having just the two pipes of the systems connected together. Now, what is the hindrance to this? Well, the hindrance is obviously cost. And the hindrance is the limitations of what the radio can and can't do. All right? You can have anything you want in this world, folks. There's just a price tag attached to it. And the question is do you want to pay for that price tag? But as the systems start to develop, it will start to get better. And it will. Because then people will start to see, hey, there's this protocol that I need. There is this situation that I need to be able to transmit in this format, this NXDN, DMR, P25, or FM, or something like that on there. It's going to start to evolve. And once that system, once the subscriber units technology evolves, then your networks will be able to breathe. Your networks will be able to take a moment and saying, okay, we can focus on how the network operates and then know the users coming onto it are operating in this standard and this parameter as compared to, like I said, going ahead and saying, you know what, I have this system and this system, I'm going to tie it together. Now the systems are tied together, so the performance of system A is going to be based on how system B interacts with it. So that's about multi-protocol radios. But guess what? It's time. You know what really bends my antenna? is the concept of how we should have this technology for free and we don't have to pay for it. It's not going to work, folks. It's not going to work in any way, shape, or form. This is a solution to an issue that's out there. That's what it truly is. It is a solution to an issue that's out there. Now, the overall solution would be to get on networks that are the same network, to be able to have the umbrella of saying, if you are in this geographical region, if this is an agency you need to communicate with, you can all be on that same system. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because there is bifurcation in the networks, right? The bifurcation in the license class even. You have public safety frequencies and you have business frequencies. And business has a purpose over public safety. Business is to conduct business, to conduct or do things that are going to, in essence, create money or revenue for you. Or you do this stuff because you have to do whatever, right? Radio systems to do that. I'm a plumber. I need to get dispatched out to the next job on there. I'm a pizza delivery guy. I need to go ahead and be able to talk back to where I'm delivering the pizzas. Alrighty, I'm a farmer, whatever the case may be. But now you have public safety. Public safety. The whole purpose is to save lives, right? Save property, right? Do all those kind of things like that. The safety thing. You're not going to have a person radio in saying, hey, I'm going to do it. My next order is going to be there. You know, it's going to swing by with the fire truck and drops it. No, it's not. It's different things there. But also, too, then what ends up happening is you have the different technologies that then filter down into those classes. And what's interesting about it is that there's no certain protocol that rides within that certain license class. There is P25 in public safety, as well as business, as even amateur. There is DMR in business, as well as public safety, as well as amateur. There is NXDN, same thing, in business, in public safety, and in amateur. And you can't go around and saying you're going to only use, as a business, you're only going to use this technology. Because that's not right. Because that's the government then saying, okay, well, hey, who invented this technology? Guess what? You get to win. And no one else can buy a radio that doesn't do anything else. That's not going to work. That's not going to work at all on there. But what happens is that we need to be understanding. We need to be aware of that. And this solution does exist out there. But it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you time. And the problem is that people don't sit down with radio systems to say, what is around me? How can I interoperate? Okay, what can I do to do this? We are so, and this is what really bends my antenna, we are so stuck on this. Whoever has the best salesman attitude, the gleam in their eye, the wink of their eye, the ones that can come in and sell, as they say, catch a popsicle to a lady wearing white gloves or refrigerators to Eskimos in Alaska, right? That's what goes ahead and tugs on the person's ear. Alrighty, that's what goes, oh, well, of course I need to do this because I'm being told this and this person wouldn't lie to me. Well, now guess what happens? Now you have the incompatibility of systems. And then people complain saying, man, I need a solution to be able to go ahead and be able to talk from my system to another system and stuff like that. Well, you had that option. And if you were not the one that said, no, let's not do this. If you weren't around when the system was put in, but you're in charge of the system now, that's where you have a choice to sit back and saying, okay, what do we do? Do we move to a new system? Do we go to the other system? What do we do? And the choice is 100% up to you. And I guarantee you, this is the problem. It's all going to be ran by this. All going to be 100% ran by this. But the thing is that multi-protocol radios do provide a solution to the problem, as I've said numerous times here, the issue. But also, too, is it also allows you to have an out. And in this day and age, people don't look at that with the radio systems. We look at how much the radio system is going to cost today, and that's it. We're not going to take a look at how well the radio system is doing 10 months, 10 weeks down the line, 10 months down the line, 10 years down the line. We don't look at that. We put it in, we run it into the ground, and then we end up back at this problem here. So really, you have a choice to say, guess what? I either understand that my systems are going to be separated and that it's going to be my burden to be able to talk across those systems versus saying going with the right system or going on to a joint system of some sort of connection whatsoever. The last thing about this is also too is that you're not going to get something for nothing. And while, yes, there might be solutions in the amateur world to multi-protocol situations, no offense, they're amateur solutions. They're not reliable. They are not this and this and this and this, okay? Even a ham myself, yeah, I'm a techie, but I see sometimes, did you hammy cobble it up, as I heard, and stuff like that on there to get the things going? Yes. No one wants to take time to do the systems correctly. No one wants to bridge these gaps together. And if you're not going to do it right at the network level, folks, then you need to use this at the subscriber level and use multi-protocol radios. And that's for this week's, you know what really bends my antenna? So thank you once again for everybody that did tune in here. I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, I do appreciate it. We are going to get back to try and do more shows here. I do have a lot of cool subjects and topics coming up here and what have you. It's been a busy time for a lot of people here. Spring has been extremely busy for me. And anybody else is in public safety, you know that it does get busy on there. Plus all the other things that I like to stay involved with and everything on there. But thank you for tuning into the show. Keep an eye out on it on our channel. We try to get the updates out here, like on this one. We tried to get it out there. But tune in every Monday night at 8 p.m. Get a notice. Subscribe to us if you want to. I don't do it for the subscriptions, but that way at least you'll get notified when we have a new show coming up and when it will be available. So until then, everybody, if you smoke them, got them, the weather got worse here again in upper Wisconsin, but we're getting better again. Soon we'll be able to sit out on the porch, have fun, get back. Stay safe, everybody. Take care of yourselves.